schedule for things. Really trying to sort out a schedule, because now that the kind of R&D section of this project is over, we're here for some regularity, hopefully. And I know I've already sort of begun that with the midnight release time for the casts, and I've been able to consistently do like a week in advance, projecting out, all that stuff. You might have noticed that today there was none. Today is Wednesday, the 4th of December. There was no cast that came out today purely by accident. I had a workspace scheduled to come out today, and when I saw the date, I just kept scheduling casts right beyond it and completely overlooked that Wednesdays are usually double days, just because, like, looking down the line of dates, it doesn't matter. But the point is, fucked that up. So now I'm trying to figure out, like, what the schedule needs to be, right? And so I have kind of this idea that on the Summer Child account, the long format, full quality, what do I want to call that? I think I just think of it as atmosphere. But the atmospheric background that I post on the Summer Child account is going to now be every Friday at midnight, and it's going to be the one of the workspace that gets posted on Wednesday on the Cozy account, and that one is going to be once a week. And then casts I was doing every single day at midnight, but now I'm wondering if I should just have one day off and make it the Wednesday day, just because this exact mistake that I made is so likely to happen again unless I make some kind of process change. So yeah, I think I'll take Wednesdays off from casting, and we just won't have a cast come out on Wednesday, but we will have a workspace come out on Wednesday. And then the atmosphere that the workspace is built on will come out on the Sweet Summer Child account on the Friday that follows the workspace. And I'm trying to decide, it feels like it should be the next Friday, like it should be like workspace, the previous Wednesday workspace, and then the previous Wednesday's atmosphere coming out Friday, and then workspace, and then you know what I mean? Like, I think we should do that kind of leapfrogging. I feel like that would create some good interweaving between the accounts. So I'll do that. We won't cast on Wednesdays. We'll take a Wednesday break, a midweek break, you could say. Happy hump day. It tends to be the day that I do most of my casting recordings. I just Wednesday, go hard, do a bunch of recording. It's not always Wednesday, and sometimes, it gets broken up differently, and I'll just jump on for an hour in the morning. It kind of depends on my rhythm and my schedule in a general sense. And that is shifting because I'm alive. So I fucking hope. Yeah, that was Girl Scout move. But yeah, I think that's what we'll do for the schedule. It seems the most reasonable. Otherwise, I've gotten this process pretty efficiently down for ensuring it gets published, ensuring the content remains pretty consistent. Again, it's a vlog format. It's unscripted, complete improv, just day to day. How are things going? What are we thinking about? What do we want to talk about? What do we, urgently need to tell the American people? Which, in my head is the audience. And it's not always spheres of influence, right? But yeah, if you're listening, thanks for listening. And I think that'll be the schedule from now on. especially while I continue to focus on my mental health and kind of getting my life back together. So that's how we'll play it. Today, I think I mentioned we're gonna do a geometry episode, and we're gonna do a land back episode, I think is what I said. Ooh, land back. Let's start there. Honestly, it's the scariest one for me to do because I'm not native. So like really talking out of my sphere. But you know, native voices have a hard time getting boosted, so maybe if I like bull through and start just running my mouth, people will come along behind me in the space I create and like actually educate, you know, like more thoroughly than what I could possibly do alone or with my imperfect knowledge. So I'm hoping that's the effect I'm having. If I ever start being an actual well, never mind. Yeah, so land back. I think that it's really easy to turn the conversation about land back into an us against them, blame game, pay us back for your genocide conversation, which like in an emotional and living embodied way, it is that conversation. So I'm not saying it's not a conversation that needs to be had and felt at all. But I do think that most people trying to break into that conversation who aren't familiar with it have too much emotional baggage to engage with the content very well because of that, and it's inhibiting our ability to actually do anything useful. And as we all know, I like useful. So I guess what I really want to do on the land back conversation, having given myself a platform to talk about it, I really just want to focus on some of the pragmatic aspects that I see that really deserve to be highlighted. One of the obvious aspects of land back for me is copywriting seeds and making it so that seeds cannot reproduce naturally. It's a pretty serious problem to me. I find that inherently evil to take food security away from the populace in that sense, and to restrict access to food to that extent. Deeply, deeply worrisome. So when I think about land back, that's my first thought. And my second thought is that seed, those seeds, healthy, reproducible seeds, should be in the stewardship of those who have relationship and stewardship with the land, Indigenous people, and that needs to be protected legally and in policy. So that's my first thought. Legal and policy protections, that is a step, not the end goal, because everything about our legal and policy structure at the moment is designed to protect property more than people. So protecting seeds as though they are property is only an intermediate step toward in the land back like work that I see in my mind. It also means returning stewardship of the actual land to the people, indigenous peoples first, and a lot of it is a reconceptualization of what land possession even means. And I think that's the broader conversation that really needs to go on in order to see the cultural, societal, and structural change that would bring the land back movement to its like full completion. Would be this global philosophical shift about what it means to possess land. Perhaps it's easier to think of the land possessing you, which is how I think of it, as being beholden to my surroundings in a way I cannot escape and don't want to escape. It goes back to perceiving yourself as being a part of a cycle or system or ecology and environment rather than being on top or dominating it. This philosophy, if it were to be internalized and taught, could revolutionize the world. So when I think about land back, those are the first few things that I think about, is returning stewardship and traditional cultural practices in land stewardship to indigenous people in a legally protected sense as an intermediary step as we shift the entire societal structure to honor human life within its environmental niche in a way that also honors all of the other life in that world or that universe even. So those are my first thoughts. It seems so kind and simple and easy. And honestly, to me, that's because it is. Again, multi-billion-dollar campaigns designed to keep you from loving your neighbor. So, keep it simple. Keep it so simple, or KISS, as I have been told. Yeah. So I guess that's my land back episode. We are 15 minutes in. I gotta find 45 more minutes talking about land. I'm sure I can bring up rape culture at some point. I'm sure that'll come up. Maybe we could start talking about missing and murdered indigenous women. That would be a great segue. Oh, wait. It seems like all these things are like connected somehow. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe it needs more research. I might just be a dumb girl. Don't know. I think land back too is nurturing and cultivating a personal relationship with land as well. And returning to what it means to be a human animal in a way that shreds stigma surrounding being animals. And of course, some people in this world have spent a very long time, generations, attempting to show themselves very distinct from animals. But really it was more an attempt to distance ourselves from our own capacity for cruelty. That's my hot take anyway. And in doing so, we became inhuman, monsters, and even more cruel. It's almost Christmas. I felt no cheer, really. Usually I do. Every year. I find it somewhere, just in the joy of friendship, the love of family, the kindness of strangers. I haven't even gotten out the Christmas box, and usually that's like the first thing I do after Thanksgiving, but how many years do you decorate an empty house and call it cheerful? This year it seems like less is more to me. I got a cool Snapchat about Christmas the other day, and that just really did it for me. So as little as my cheer has to do with Christmas, I am finding it hard not to smile, fit to break my face. And I think it's just, it can't be the Zoloft because I'm only on day 6, so I think it might just be caring. Just caring. I remember the first time I was introduced to the light spectrum. And I remember it every time I see the sun. I once told somebody that I remember everything. They looked at me with extreme concern. I could see them picturing how awful that would be. It's not awful. I can't imagine not remembering everything. It scares me, actually. I almost obsessively remember everything, like on purpose, because I'm afraid I'll forget. And if I forget, then I won't remember. And if I don't remember, then how will I be content? Copywriting seeds. Do you know anything about like gardening or farming? I don't know a whole lot. I know introducing crop rotations seriously upped production in the Middle Ages, completely changed the game for agriculture. It was something that they'd been doing in India for years, but of course, we never give them credit because we're British. No, I'm just kidding. But kind of like, sun never sets on the British Empire. Yeah, it's really hard to constantly have to live with the consequences of people who made so many decisions way before you were born. And that is something we all who are living have in common. That's a great starting point for perspective shifting if you're struggling. Keeping in mind all of us are dealing with the consequences of the decisions that were made before we were born. In my life, I've been told that I take too much responsibility for things that are outside of my control or that I'm not responsible for, and I don't actually think that's the case. I think I take responsibility for myself. Sometimes. But the people I tend to trust myself with deserve it. I do think that is an issue, though, for like a lot of people not taking responsibility for all the ways that they improve the world. I don't think people are very good at noticing how they improve the world. Damn it. Never gonna get
George shot thing going.
I think we're a lot better at acknowledging the ways that we do harm or fuck up than we are for the good that we do. Yeah, so land stewardship and food sovereignty, those are the two words to start your keyword search for what land back really means. And truly, what a liberating movement it could be. Most of America is on a diet of processed food, most of which is barely nutritional. They have little access to healthy food in a variety of ways. There's either a cost restriction or a distance restriction, or both, usually both, for most of America. And what that means in practice also is, this is going to sound absolutely crazy and tinfoily hat, so we are now at the other half of my hour and allowed to go completely unhinged. Watch as the banshee / snake completely unhinges its jaw. Most of America, or the world, I don't think it's the world, being on a diet of processed food, lacking nutrition, lacking living food, microbiologically alive food. Probiotics and prebiotics are a part of a healthy gut. And a very important part. You generally get prebiotics from things that contain fiber, and you generally get probiotics from things that are alive, like kombucha, yogurt, pickles that are always chilled, kimchi, sauerkraut, natto, anything fermented. And when I say kombucha, I don't mean necessarily the stuff with 20 grams of cane sugar in it. Pay attention to the way it is sweetened. The fermentation is the important part of the kombucha. So even if it's not sweetened, or if it's sweetened with fruit juice, that's the kind of kombucha you want to be drinking. Probiotic pills or supplements or even Yakult is truly no substitute for the real thing. This is a way to revitalize the gut and overall improve your health, especially mental health. Your gut helps you produce hormones. It has, second to your brain, the most neuron endings, the most complex neural network. It's an important part. When you say you have a gut feeling, you do. And if you're like me and you grew up mostly on a diet of fast food or processed food, hamburger helper, ramen, average American diet, your gut is probably suffering. And by extension, the rest of you. I know it's hard to tell somebody to prioritize a very expensive lifestyle change that involves Whole30 foods and probiotics and fresh food and time sinking into preparation. And I would definitely not recommend HelloFresh or any service like Blue Apron that promises to bring these things to you, because it is only another commercialized version of the trash they want to feed you, even if it is actually healthy for you. The psychology of letting somebody feed you in that sense, in that way, and taking care of it continues the problem. But for those who don't have time, who don't know how to make these adjustments, just start slow. Change one thing. Take a look at the diet. Don't make any changes at first. In the beginning, when you're ready to make changes or you want to make change, don't. Just observe. Just observe. Maybe even for a month. That's 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks is how you change habits. So observe first until you're ready, until you know what the first change you need to make is that will actually work for you. And then make that one change, and then observe again. I know it's hard. It doesn't feel like doing anything. But it helps. It really helps. And you'll notice. More than anything, the trust relationship you have with yourself is important, and more important than the changes that you make. Because that trust relationship with yourself is going to predict future change and future behaviors. So building that up as much as you can is so important. And that means being accurate in what you're actually capable of doing. Don't let yourself down by choosing a completely unreasonable goal and then beating yourself up when you don't meet it. Choose an easy goal. Choose a low bar. Shoot for the middle. Create a high bar. Shoot for the middle, but have a low bar. And when you step over the low bar, congratulate yourself. Choose something you can do that's easy. Give yourself easy wins. Build that trust relationship with yourself. Because it makes it easier later to do harder things. And every time that middle goal starts being achieved with regularity and consistency, preferably after a 4-month period, change the goalposts. Move that Overton window for yourself and start aiming at a new middle and stepping over the new low bar, which used to be your middle. It works. If you can introduce any prebiotics that aren't prepackaged into your diet on a consistent basis, I think you'll notice a change. If you can shift away from processed food into whole foods, you'll notice something big. And there are ways to do it economically, and there are ways to do it time economically too. When I say economically, I always mean both cash and time, because cash doesn't really represent anything but time at this point. That and whoever's printing it, whatever they want it to represent. But our currency is time. Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's always what we're trading. Time and energy. So when I say economic, I do mean just time and energy, really. And money, obviously, too, is part of that, because your time and energy goes into making your money, I assume. But they can be achieved. It's just the small steps and the trust relationships where people really get bogged down. It's not that it's impossible. It's actually quite possible. It's the fact that everybody can sense that it's relatively possible, but then struggles so much to accomplish it that they think something must be really wrong with them and that they're bad and that they just can't do it, and then they give up. Or they have that entire experience in their head and they never even try to start. Or that experience is known to them in a general miasmic sense of a fog hanging over the populace and nobody's trying anything because it's still happening. Or everybody is aggressively reframing these relationships and attempting to make changes, and I am at the back of the crowd cheering you all on. I don't know. I never mind being a cheerleader. Not for these things. So, wherever you're at in a healthy food relationship journey, I know you got this. And it's not your fault. That wacky food pyramid with like bread on the bottom and sugar on the top, what the fuck? You know what, I'm really not about blame games. I would much rather just find a solution and move on so we can all live a happy life. I really think we could all live our solar punk, like, highest attaining life if we just solved some problems. And I'm about trying. But there is some responsibility to be placed on our government and scientists and the food industry and unchecked greed in poisoning the American people. The amount of sugar and salt that makes its way into our processed food is absurd. The corn syrup atrocity is disgusting. That's rape upon rape. Indigenous, genocide, corn, fucking... And then to process it is fine, but then to overproduce it and to insert it into everything to ensure that everyone has an elevated posts as a default. Cannot talk about corn right now. I cannot talk about corn syrup right now. I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. This relationship with food, a healthy relationship with food that grows from the land, is my right as a being with a body. Having a healthy relationship with nourishment is a right. It is an inalienable right. Yeah. It has to be a protected one. I want it all the way back where it says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I just want to add an addendum that says healthy relationship with that which nurtures you. And like really nurtures you. Everything changed when I started really addressing my food, nutrition, gut, balance, relationship. And the tinfoil hat of it all is, I know none of this has sounded absurd yet, but we still have 15 minutes. The tinfoil hat part of all of this is that the implications of quantum physics and quantum psychology is that the microbial level is going to have an impact on your ability cognitively for quantum thought. And that includes, should I say telepathy? Maybe I shouldn't. Should we get some tinfoil? I do have some Reynolds wrap. We could make our own little hats. We could be the children of the corn. No? You don't want to make hats? I never even saw the Children of the Corn. I'm gonna be real. I only saw Scary Movie 2. I know that really tracks for me. It was great. There was, I think, wasn't there like a fake M&M in that one? Or was it like really M&M? I haven't seen it in a long time. It probably didn't age well. But yeah, eat your vegetables or no brain speaking for you. Sorry, you can't mind to mind with your lover. Not without enough carrots. Big facts right there. Eat your greens. And some probiotics too. Like, cannot stress enough, you need some yogurt, kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi, something. Something good there. I said the telepathy thing to my mom the other night. She was like, you know, most people are gonna think you're crazy. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. It's okay. Someone once said, facts don't care about your feelings. And they also said something like, crazy is as crazy does. Same person. I'm positive, yeah, I saw it in a tweet. No, the Abraham Lincoln tweet was first, actually. He definitely said that. He did. For sure. Because he tweeted it. God. My humor is just not appreciated, I don't think. I thought I was funny. Turns out I'm just... That was a weird one. I'm not saying that out loud. You're funny, though. It's atrocious, actually. A lot of cuticle biting lately. This is how I think. Oh, this is super healthy. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I just think that the common folk deserve to have the best technical upgrades possible in order to combat oppressive regimes. So I thought I would hop on and give everybody, like a social technical update. Hopefully in a palatable and ingestible way that you can then internalize and use for your own benefit, and hopefully the benefit of all of us. But if that's not what happens, I'm sure something good will still come out of it. I'll just do my best. That's all we can do, really. Our best. God, it feels so fucking good to just really try my best at being me. I feel so awful for holding that back. Awful for myself, awful for the people around me. Being too scared to be yourself. I never wanted to be that scared of anything. Least of all that. I worked so hard when I was younger to become a well-rounded individual with a secure sense of self. I guess I'm still working on it. My face feels so flinchy right now. All of my facial micro muscles are trembling and I can feel it. It's nice that they are alive. That part's really cool. Not being able to feel my own face for so long was really awful. I didn't know that that would be a side effect. I thought that was just a song by The Weeknd. But it turns out that's just what happens when you deaden yourself inside. Your face gets really dead too. Although I have been thinking about stone face, stone heart, warrior culture, and how that doesn't necessarily reflect, emotion or spiritual presence. And that is comforting. It's also really funny. Snapchat thinks I'm a boy, I think because of my face. Well, I know because of my face. So I guess I have some micro muscle facial expressions that are quite stoic. It's weird. I used to be the most expressive person, and even overly expressive, overly affectionate, touching people all the time. I gave away hugs all the time, like it was just the most normal thing. Constantly just kind of like mothering people, I guess. It was just who I was, and I'm still not sure who I am now after all of that self-suppression and change. I kind of don't like it when people touch me without, like, express permission. And that's wildly different than I used to be. I'm just trying to find a balance. I don't want to be like antisocial. I want to be, what's the opposite of maladapted? Well-adjusted. I want to be socially well-adjusted. And I feel like I've been swinging between social extremes of hyper-social and hyper-antisocial, and I just want to live in the middle. I know. I should be gentle with myself and acknowledge how much change has been going on and how much my life circumstances have dictated my sociability, and how much of that pressure has now been relieved, and just give myself the space and the grace. But I think it's more just impatience to discover or rediscover the world and my place in it. It's eagerness and excitement, and I think that that is so not the way I have been feeling that it's kind of foreign. So that's exciting. That's good, right? Yeah, I think that's probably good. I am so hungry. Do you think I did okay with this land back episode? Do you think I covered all the bases? I feel like I did. Also, the implication with never mind. You can figure out your own implications. You got this. You're not dumb. You might have your gut being intentionally deadened to you, but you're not dumb. It's pretty fucked up, right? It's like a literal evisceration. On a constant daily basis of all common people. Or enough of them for it to be a serious problem. But even a few of them would be too many. Come on. What kind of world do we want to live in, man? Oh, sorry, not man. Gotta stop with the gendered words. I got in trouble saying you guys once, and I was like, oh my god, I say that all the time. And then, of course, I went on to say it a lot more before finally getting a hold of myself, because apparently when I realize I've done something incorrect, I have to do it 5 more times. I hope that is passing as a habit. But it was really useful to learn that about myself, especially more recently, that is sort of like an indication of where my headspace is at. If I start saying you guys, I know that like mentally or emotionally I'm in my feels at like a young level, and I just need to stop with the talking because it means my vocabulary has regressed to yeah, it's funny what you notice if you get the chance and you can take the time to notice it. Really, time theft is being perpetuated against everyone deeply. Your time in this earth is being ripped from you and stolen. On stolen land, even. So I feel it's important to protect land back initiatives where and when you see them, now that you understand some of the underpinning philosophy if you didn't before. And missing and murdered Indigenous women. Anytime you have an opportunity to raise those voices, definitely do. And as far as missing people go, children, women, men, non-binary, gender anarchists, sorry. Oh, and the fluid folks. No shade, no shade. Practice sharing missing people content. I know it hurts to see, and it's often easier to pass it up and to let the bystander effect take effect and think that somebody else will do it. But if it comes across your sphere of influence, practice memorizing faces and then looking for them in your life before sharing the missing person ad. It is a practice. And possibly it happens to me more often than others because of my region. But sharing missing person content is only half as useful as actually memorizing the face. And when you practice doing that, you're actively humanizing that face. And if it's an Indigenous face, yeah. We have a little bit more time, so I'm going to end on a very positive note. Let's see if I can recall this particular science factoid with high fidelity. In psychology, there is something called the own race bias, where you are more likely to recognize people of your own race and much less likely to be able to distinguish between people of other races. So like all Asian people look the same to you if you're not Asian. We used to think that this was like a evolutionary distinction thing where like kind of validated that there were differences racially between people at an evolutionary level, to the point where like recognition was in effect. But there was this really cool study that demonstrated when you assign people to groups, even ones with minor significance or constructed significance, you know, just completely made up groups, and then they're asked to interact within the context of those what is it called, minimal groups. This is the minimal group thing. That own race bias goes away. It's superseded by your self-categorization into the made-up group. So it's actually really more about groups than race. And the minimal group, I think it's minimal group dynamic? Minimal group, oh gosh, you're gonna have to look this one up. Minimal group, yeah, if you look up minimal groups and own race bias, you should find this. And if not, let me know in the comments and I'll do some digging and I'll put it in the description. But it's a really cool study, and it basically shows that there really isn't an underlying evolutionary reason for being able to recognize your own race over others. More accurately, it's really more about your idea of what is a group. So if you start grouping yourself or identifying yourself along dimensions that don't have to do with race, or placing significance on identities of yours that have nothing to do with race, you will minimize that own group bias effect, which is pretty cool, pretty neat, really awesome that we have some data about that. There's actually a lot of data about a lot of things. It's pretty exciting, but I can't cover all of it for you, or even right now today, so we're gonna stop here, me and my finger guns. That's why I had to get the finger tattoos. I do finger guns too much. It's a problem. But I'm not inciting violence. Don't do violence. No violence. Demonstrations only. Peaceful protests, yes. Violence, no. Anywho. We'll see you next time.